Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Build. I'm your host, Carrie Justick. Our next guest is only 23 years old, and already she's been a CEO and the executive director of the Caitlyn Jenner Foundation. But the businesswoman is on to her next venture as she works to build her own health and technology company called Luma Suncare, which doesn't come without obstacles. Please help me in welcoming Sophia Hutchins. Hello, hello.
How are you?
I was just saying downstairs, I can't believe you're only 23, and I feel like your resume is already so impressive. But I wanted to go back a little bit and just have you explain how you got here. I mean, what your interests were, even like throughout school. I know you were really involved in like student government, and you studied finance, I believe. How did you just dive right into the business world?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. In university, I studied economics and finance, and I was always passionate about investing. I grew up with my grandparents, and I think as a result of that, I heard them on the phone all the time with their accountant or their financial advisor talking about their 401ks, and I got really interested in, you're buying Microsoft, you're buying Boeing? Like, I want to do that. That sounds exciting. And so I got really into investing. I was always into that kind of thing ever since I was really young. So I studied economics and finance. While I was at Pepperdine, I thought I was going to go work here on Big Bad Wall Street. So I did all those interviews at the banks and really learned the business. And then throughout college, I interned a lot with different financial asset management groups in LA. And so then my life took an unexpected turn, which was I had this idea for a new company. And I went like the total opposite of the Wall Street route, and I went the venture capital route. And so I started immersing myself in venture capital, what it means to start a business, and really started soul searching on this idea that I had, and thought, how can I make this reality? And here we are talking about it. So that's kind of how I got here today.
I think that's so interesting. Like you said, you had kind of an interest in investing when you were younger, because for myself, that was something that wasn't in my realm, and you don't learn a lot about as a kid unless, like you said, you're interested in it. When it came to kind of creating your own business, like, where do you even begin? Because like I said, you also are still so young, so you might have this interest, and obviously you have some experience, but when you're going against all these other people in the industry, where do you start?
No, it's funny because I'm the CEO and founder of this company, but everyone that works for me is older than me.
Yeah,
like,
I can imagine.
By far. My investors are all like 3 times my age or more, or, less. But, you get the idea. I'm very young in this space. That's absolutely true. Really, my rule from day one, no matter what I was doing from a really young age, was to surround myself with people that I looked up to and people that believed in me. And I always tell people, if I feel like I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room and I need to get out immediately. And so I think as a result of surrounding myself with people that I look up to in business, that wanted to empower me in business, that believed in my vision, I ultimately have had the success that I've had today with being able to close my first round of funding on this company earlier this year. So really, I think it comes down to, who do you surround yourself with? And then how do you use those people that want to empower you to build something that you believe in, and make them believe in it as much as you do.
And definitely, like, when you're creating this, and like you said, you just closed your first round of funding, so on its way. But in terms of like getting your start, like you said, you're likely the youngest person in the room. You don't want to be the smartest one there, but you obviously want to be taken seriously. So as a 23-year-old woman, is that a challenge?
That is a big challenge. I think the biggest professional challenge I've had so far was raising the capital I needed to seed my company. And so, when I was doing these pitches across the country, I did 3 days in Silicon Valley on Sand Hill Road. I did 3 days here in New York, and then I did a couple in LA. And getting primarily old white men to believe that this 23-year-old that looks like that can run a company and it would give them a good return on their investment and has an idea that's worth looking at and has the ability to surround herself with people that are smart and can execute this with her, was really a huge hurdle for me to overcome. In fact, in one of my pitches at a VC firm that we would all know if I said the name, but I won't because I could probably get sued or something. I had the partner at the firm say to me, I understand that you have this great idea and it's a great idea, but it's you I'm worried about. You're 22. I was 22 at the time. You're 22, but unfortunately, men can go out at 22 years old, and we've seen them drop out of college and do it even younger and go get a lot of capital to fund their ventures. And nobody's saying, well, I'm not sure because you look like that. And, there's all these rumors online that I'm a model. And so they had that misconception in their head. And it just kind of proved to be really challenging. But ultimately, the way I overcame that was I found the investors that saw past all the superficial nonsense and believed in me as an executor and believed in my idea. And so closing the round was tough, but I definitely found those people that believed in it.
Definitely. And before we launch into what Luma is, I did want to touch on that a little bit about you talking about the misconception of being a model. And of course, like we've said, you're 23 years old, you're going to be on social media, you're going to be using social media as any business person your age is. How has your use of social media helped you and worked against you?
So this weekend I was drinking by my pool, relaxing, enjoying the weekend with some
As one does.
right? And so I was dancing, kind of being, foolish, having fun. And so I was like, guys, should I post this video of me dancing? And they're like, no, don't do it. You're a CEO, you're a founder, you can't show that side of yourself. And it's like, why not? Yes, I can. So I post the video and people love it and they thought it was funny. And it's like, you have to remember at the end of the day, yeah, I'm 23, but more importantly, I'm a human. I have fun. We all do, I hope. And I'm definitely someone that has been able to balance fun and play. And I think showing that to your followers is something that's really important, that, yeah, you can be drunk by the pool dancing and you can also run a company, So.
I love that. I love that. And so Luma, Suncare,
Yeah.
what was your initial idea and what are you now getting ready to launch?
So in my senior year of college, I, was kind of debating, what am I going to do to make money? Am I going to keep interviewing at banks here? And then I actually got a group of women in LA that I became really close with that were entrepreneurs that had been in the beauty space for decades. And I told them about this idea I had. And they said, Sophia, you need to execute this and you need to come up with a business plan and you need to come up with how this is going to become reality. And so I did that. I spent about 6 months doing that. And then I went out to people within my immediate network that I felt could support me in where I lacked, which was, developing financial models, for instance, or doing a competitive analysis of the market and where we can really differentiate ourselves, really preparing ourselves to go out to venture capital, to pitch, to get a really high valuation, and to raise a lot of money. And so I did that. And that was about a 12-month process altogether before we went out and started pitching. I did all the pitches by myself. But I was very well prepared with people I trusted around me, guiding me and advising me. And as a result, we got to Luma, which I'm very eager to tell you about.
I know this is all you see if you go to the website right now. So I'm very eager to hear about it as well. If you can, what tea can you spill?
Yeah, so we're not talking a lot about it because when I raised the money, it was so much not get us ready for the launch, but it was so much R&D that needed to go into this product. What I really feel is a really good descriptor of us is that we're in the health tech space, invading beauty almost. So, you know, with my product, I think it's really important that we're known for protecting your health. And the first area of attack, so to speak, for your health that we want to protect is UV. So developing a product that gives you data up to the minute, up to the second on your UV exposure, that gives you information that you can use to inform your life decisions on how you use SPF products to protect you from UVA and UVB rays, was kind of where we felt we could really differentiate. And we don't want to limit ourselves to the UV space. I think when you see us launch early 2020, you'll see us playing in the UV space, and you'll see us not as a banana boat or a copper tone or even a Kula or a Sunbum, which are great products. Ours is not competing with other SPF products. We are carving out a space that uses SPF, but also uses tech to inform your usage of SPF.
Which is wild, because I feel like even you just saying some brand names, I feel like SPF has a totally different reputation now than it did before. Why do you think people are ready for this information or more interested in it now?
I think that some of the inspiring companies and founders that I've surrounded myself with are those. Do you know Quip, the toothbrush?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're in Brooklyn. And so I really like what Quip did to something as simple as brushing your teeth. They made it sexy, they made it eco-friendly with refillable heads. It is subscription based. So I really like what they did in the health tech space to something as simple as brushing your teeth. I really like what Harry's Dollar Shave Club did for men that needed refills with razors. They didn't reinvent shaving your beard. They created a process around that that made it a lot easier and a lot simpler and almost sexy and almost something you want to talk to your friends about. So companies like that, I've surrounded myself with people at those companies, and that really guided how I could differentiate in a space that's no one really likes, which is SPF. It's like I have to put this nasty white goopy stuff all over my makeup, all over my face. Like nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because I feel like it's everybody talks about how it's like a millennial mindset and it's this millennial way of advertising. And even on the subways in New York, you just see, like you said, these really cool ads for the simplest things, you know, toothbrushes, sheets, all of that stuff. So it's really about making this stuff sexy, which is really interesting. And obviously, you're really into beauty. What do you think the connection between SPF and beauty is to you?
I think you cannot be beautiful without SPF. I mean, that's a bad statement. Can we cut that?
I think kind of true.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the foundation to having good skin is SPF, right? We know that the ozone is depleting at a more rapid rate than ever. We know that we need to wear SPF. The question is, how do I fit that into my daily routine? Like I fit brushing my teeth into my daily routine, or shaving my legs to my routine. And so for me, it was that question. How do we easily fit that into people's lives? How do we give them access to data on their UV exposure? And make that a part of their life? And then how do we make it sexy, sleek, and fun, and millennial friendly? And that was the big guiding questions to how we developed our business model and differentiate ourselves in the UV space.
And obviously, I mean, health and tech, those are two huge industries that I'm sure are really, really difficult to understand when you're really like diving into it. What type of research went into even you pitching this idea or coming up with it?
So that's a very interesting question. For about 6 months, I worked with one of the top management consulting companies in the country out of Silicon Valley. And I worked with them on an equity-based arrangement. So really, I had no upfront capital costs. But I was introed to them through a business associate of mine. And as a result of that, huge, massive consulting firm behind me, we were really able to do a lot of research into how we can track people's data. Are people willing to, give access, or how willing are people to give their health data to companies if it means that they can better protect themselves from UV exposure? And so that process was a lot of consumer research. I think we spent 3 months and we talked to over 60,000 US consumers. And we really identified what needs were not being met, how we could meet them, what consumers were and were not willing to do, as far as data sharing goes, as far as product goes. And then as far as a business model and business plan goes, that was really me deciding. And I'm not going to exactly say what our business model is, but I think you get the gist of it. We're eco, we're sustainable, and we need to be there when you need us. Our product needs to be there when you need it. And so as far as the development of the business model goes, that was really me getting myself acquainted with founders and, executive teams of companies like those that I mentioned that really have paved the way for these companies that are there and their products are there when their consumers need them.
That's awesome. And then something to your platform specifically, I know that you're really big on gender equality in the workplace. You even have spoken out about the U.S. women's national soccer team and that whole scandal with payment, which is a whole nother thing. But especially like in the tech world, I know people talk a lot about facing gender discrimination. Is that something that you experienced? And when you're building a company like this that's in the health and tech space, what do you do to combat that?
I wish I had more time to answer that. But one of the most illustrative examples I could point you to is when I was on Sand Hill in Silicon Valley. One of the groups that I pitched to that did ultimately invest was Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. And I walked in to the pitch, and there were like 8 women on one side of this long conference table and me on the other side. And I said, this is interesting. This is not like any of the other meetings I've been to on Sand Hill. And I said to them, do you guys allow men to work here, or is it just ladies? Like, I'm down. Like, this is exciting. This is not normal, and it's not normal. I think as someone that chooses who I get to employ, I think looking at underrepresented groups is super important in the hiring process. Not to fill a quota, obviously. The reason I think it's really important is because everyone from groups that are underrepresented, everyone that comes from a more marginalized background has faced challenges that really inform their perspective on business making decisions, on their personal lives, on every aspect that goes into working with people so intimately in a startup environment. So for me, hiring decisions always come down to, what have you done? And then how did you get to where you are today? And so employing women for me is really important for me to do. And, not just women, but all underrepresented groups.
And off of that same note, what do you think is the most exciting part about being a woman entrepreneur today? And what is, I guess, like the scariest?
Most exciting is that I mean, the most exciting is that I finally see my vision coming to life. I'm with the FDA talking about, is this approved or is it not? And it's approved. And I'm with like my engineers designing the product, feeling the product, touching the product. I'm with my team strategizing on our go-to-market plan. I'm in New York with my branding team and marketing team every other week, working with them on how are we going to do this right and make a big bang. And so for me, it's just really exciting to see this come to life. Number one, fear. I don't know. I'm not that nervous. I feel like ask me after I launch and see what happens then. Things might change a little bit.
Awesome. Well, we are going to kick it over to audience Q&A. We have one question right here.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So, doing all of this, I'm pretty sure you do get stressed at times. So, what is your main coping skill to like help you re-strategize and help you calm down with all the stress?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the most important thing that I do personally is exercise is really important. Taking care of your body, eating right. I realized after I did the pitch, I was like, oh my God, I'm gaining a lot of weight right now, and my hair's falling out and all this stuff. Like, oh wow, I'm way too stressed. How do I cope with this? And so for me, that's what I found to do. Also, make time for the people that matter most to you and spend time around them, around people that calm you down. That's really important too for me.
And spend time by the pool.
And yes, drink by the pool and dance.
And then we have one more question.
Hi, Sophia. I was curious whether you've were maybe or ever thought about branching into other industries, or if there are any other interests outside of beauty and tech.
Yes, definitely. Lumasol is the first step, and playing in the UV space is the first step. This company is going to grow, and working with my product development team has been amazing to see what our ideas are for the future. What does it look 24 months after launch? And it's so much different than, you know, what I was just describing, just in the way that it can grow. So I think you'll see this brand branch out in a lot of different ways that, you know, it won't necessarily go to market with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like we've said many times, you are young, you have ways to go, and you're already having so much success, which is so fun to see.
you.
I can't wait for Lumasol to come to us in 2020. Thank you so much, Sophia.
Thank you. Thank you.